Hello, dears, and welcome back to a new IELTS podcast. If you're new here, my name is Florina, and today we'll be talking more about the IELTS marking criteria. And this is something that I tell to all my students, and this is something that I begin with every single IELTS strategy course. In order to be successful on the exam, you need to fully understand how you will be assessed. And this means getting a clear and intimate understanding of the IELTS marking criteria and knowing exactly where you would fall in those categories. Now, many students plunge right into their IELTS exam preparation without fully understanding how they will be assessed in the speaking and writing areas. And this is key to your success because it will help you prepare better and help you improve your English. So, when students aren't aware of exactly what examiners are scoring them on, they're not able to identify which areas are their weaknesses and which areas they are strong in. And students often feel quite a bit lost and helpless, and sometimes they might even feel like the examiners or the IELTS exam itself is out to get them. But trust me, this is not true. Yes, it is a difficult exam, which is meant to ensure you have the capabilities in English to succeed in what you're setting out to do. But trust me, nobody's there to chop off your head. So, if you're taking the IELTS exam to enter into a university, the exam results are meant to show that you are capable of taking high level courses in English and that you will be able to succeed in them. So, if you think about it, this means that you really do need to be good at English and not just have just enough English to pass the exam. So that's why it's important to understand each area of the marking criteria. So if you don't get the 7 or above in each of these areas, is unlikely you'll get the score that you need to reach your goals. So, in your preparation, you will need to focus on improving your IELTS task responses and improving your general English level in each area of the marking criteria to help ensure that you are able to get the band score that you want and need. And the only way to do this effectively is to have a clear understanding of the marking criteria. Now, it might sound a little bit, okay, you're repeating yourself, but I cannot stress this enough. You need to understand each descriptor for your desired level, get an extensive amount of practice using it to assess your own writing and speaking. So, today we're going to look at the IELTS marking criteria. As I've mentioned before, in the other podcast, there are four areas to consider when you're beginning to learn how you are assessed on the speaking exam. So the first area is fluency and coherence, then lexical resource, which I've already mentioned that it's a very fancy name for vocabulary, then grammatical range and accuracy, and the fourth, pronunciation. Each of these areas or criteria um, is divided into 9 different band scores. Most students need to get a band 7 score, sometimes higher, and most students that I have met and I have prepared are somewhere between 5 to 6.5 level. And sometimes I see students that may have a 7 in one area or of the marking criteria, but score lower in the other areas. And this is actually pretty common. And basically, this is your actual challenge. How can you improve your English in all areas of the marking criteria so that each area scores above a band 7? So your first step here will be that you will need to review the IELTS marking criteria band scores of 7 and above to ensure that you are meeting the criteria. So we are going to have um, a quick look at all the requirements for a band score in all the different areas of each marking criteria. So we're going to start with fluency and coherence. Um, this area shows that you are able to deliver a fluid response. It flows like a river, which means it's easy to understand for the listener. Now, in order for you to get a 7 or above, you need to be able to speak for long periods of time without repetition, loss of coherence, slow speech, or too much self correction. You also need to be able to show, okay, a little bit of hesitation, but not so much, okay, that it impedes listener comprehension, or in other words, it makes it difficult for the listener to follow what you're saying. You can hesitate if you're thinking, like natural hesitations. You also should make sure that your responses are well organized and well developed. That's coherence. You can go from point A to point B in an easy way. I mean, you don't want your responses to stray off topic or for you to forget what you're saying. All of this describes the band 7 in the area of fluency and coherence. Well, moving on to lexical resource. As I said, is a fancy way of saying vocabulary, but the truth is it refers to having a very strong vocabulary in a variety of different types of vocabulary. You need to have a very strong basis of IELTS vocabulary, which is topic specific vocabulary on certain themes, also academic vocabulary, collocations, idiomatic expressions, and also you need to have the ability to use them flexibly in English. The Band 7 descriptor for this area requires that you are able to use vocabulary on a variety of topics and that you are able to use less common and idiomatic vocabulary precisely. So you need to have a high level of vocabulary and use it correctly in terms of meaning, use, and also word formation. And you also need the ability to summarize and paraphrase, again, if the opportunity arises. Then we're moving on to the um, worst um, enemy, the sworn enemy of every candidate, grammatical range and accuracy. Grammatical range and accuracy is the area that can make or break a student. And if you're preparing to take the IELTS exam, but you don't have a very strong basis in grammar, this is the area that will break you. You need to have a pretty good understanding of grammar from levels beginner to upper intermediate if you want to do well on the exam. So if you don't have a strong basis, and by strong basis, I mean that you're able to use the grammatical tenses well without major errors. I mean, you need to know present simple, you need to know past tense, simple, present continuous, and future with will. Yeah, and if you make major errors, then you definitely need to be working on your grammar um, in addition to your IELTS preparation. So you should study grammar points each day or at least each week and make sure you apply it to your exam practice. And the band descriptor for band 7 in this area requires that you're able to use, again, a variety of simple and complex grammatical structures that are relatively error free. And the errors you make should be with the more complex tenses. And if you're making errors with simpler tenses, like you don't know the present simple or you don't know the past tense, and if you're making repetitive errors or more than a few, that will keep you from getting a band score or even a higher. So let me give an example. A student who makes one or two errors using conditional sentences or mixed conditionals, or what I hate the most, gerunds and infinitives, might still be able to get a band 7 or even 7.5 a band score, while a student who is making repetitive mistakes with um, present simple in the third person or articles or countable or non-countable nouns is unlikely to get band 7. Why? Because the second student is making mistakes with simple structures. So they may be structures that are difficult for you due to your native language, but you still need to fix these mistakes if you want to get a good score in this area. And we're moving on to the last one, pronunciation. The area of pronunciation is a little less developed in the band descriptors here, but basically what you need to know is that you are pronouncing English well enough that the listener doesn't have any major issues in understanding you. So you should definitely pay attention to things like sentence stress, word stress, but you can also start looking up like list of pronunciation points which are common areas or difficulty for your first language. For example, most people, Romanian people, struggle with short a sound in English. For example, they don't say apple, they say apple. They don't say cash, they say cash. So there might be problems here. Also with the th sound, they may say t or d or z. So yes, these might be some problems. But again, there are plenty of lists online that show errors typically made in a variety of first languages. So I recommend starting there and working on each area of difficulty. I also recommend a monolingual dictionary with pronunciation both in American and British English so you can get your ear attuned um, to see exactly how you can improve your pronunciation. So, overall, this is something you should be reviewing after each speaking practice preparation that you do. You can and you should, and I strongly recommend recording yourself doing speaking tasks and then listening and assessing yourself. And then while you listen, you can ask yourself, is my vocabulary okay? What else can I add? Do I repeat myself? Did I hesitate? Did I pause? Am I stuttering? Am I mispronouncing anything? So, again, it's very important to be objective and to take time to evaluate yourself because the more you do that, the more you become aware of your own abilities and what you need to do to improve it. So, naturally, and on the test day, you will be making sure that you meet all of your, um, you address all of your weaknesses and you are able to do well in the speaking exam. And that will be all about the IELTS speaking marking criteria. I hope you do have a clear understanding of how you should be addressing each area and where you should be working. And stay tuned because in the next podcast, I'll be talking about the IELTS writing marking criteria, which is also extremely important. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring. Bye bye.